What's up, everybody? Welcome to Savant Obsession, Episode 1. I have a very special guest for you guys today, and I want him to introduce himself to you guys.
Hi, everybody. This is Bobby. I'm Ethan's father and the general manager for Savant Barbershops.
Sick. So, I kind of want to dive in to how you got to Utah, a little bit about your late childhood, like 18 and up, and how you ended up in Utah.
All right. So, growing up in Southern California, I grew up in the smoggiest city in the Inland Empire, close to San Bernardino, a city called Upland. Luckily, I had Mount Baldy, which was it's a really cool mountain right at the foothills. But it was very smoggy. It was during the meth explosion. The kids in that city had lots of money. They had access to whatever they wanted to do, and that's not where I wanted to go, and that's not what I wanted to be. So I first, right after high school, moved to Oakland, California. Lived there for 3 years with a good friend of mine, Don, and another really good friend named Mitch, and just worked and established my independence away from the people I grew up with and away from my family. I had a great family life. It wasn't that I needed to get away from them. I just think it's important for any young person to establish themselves as an individual rather than trying to perform for the people that they grew up around. So once I was done there, I came back and did a short stint in San Clemente, did some surfing, learned how to build stairs, made some money, and decided that big cities and metropolises like that where it was hard to escape was just not for me. I needed more personal space. And growing up in that kind of area, the first thing that I thought of, and I think most people would have, is Colorado. But I went to Colorado, I went to Denver, and once I saw the layout and what a big city it was, I wasn't interested at all. So I said, let's go check out Washington State. And drove across I-70, hit I-15 and started going north. And every mile I drove, I just fell more in love with Utah. Once I got to Salt Lake and I saw where the resorts were in comparison where downtown was, and I knew that I could find a good rent, a good place to live, safe. I really like the people here, and it's such a short ride to the mountain, especially in the early to mid 90s. So easy to get access to the mountain.
Okay.
I've been here ever since.
Why was access to nature in the mountains so important to you?
Well, it took me a long time to figure out that that's what I needed. Because I grew up in a completely urban environment and then moved to Oakland, which is just as urban, maybe even more so. I found over time that I needed to be able to decompress from human beings, that they get on my nerves. After long periods with no decompression, I like to put my feet in the sand, so to speak, and ground myself. And I do love human beings. I don't want that to come off wrong. I enjoy my time around them. I like deep conversations and companionship and connection. But I do need to clear my head.
Okay, and then so you end up in Utah, and part of your story is you were an early pro snowboarder before they were getting like really actually paid.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I was a semi-pro sponsored snowboarder. I was getting some flows, some boards, lots of clothing, that kind of thing. And but more importantly, I was riding with my friends every day. I was riding over 100 days a year and doing some photo shoots and having lots of fun.
Okay. And you started with like one company that you still have some of the gear from. It was
Burley.
okay.
Well, the first sponsorship I got was with De Facto. A good friend of mine, John O'Connor, and a friend of his started a board company. This was maybe 94. I'm guessing. And they started giving me boards, and then I went back to Southern California, and I met a gentleman named Corey, who was a manufacturer for RPM Manufacturing. They built and manufactured a lot of different companies' outerwear. And
Okay.
he had his own outerwear out of the manufacturing facility named Burley, and he was really good to me. I got a lot of things from him.
Okay. And so you're semi-pro, right? And you're riding all the time. And then you end up working at Brighton Resort?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole time I was doing that, I was also working a job. There really wasn't quite enough money or product coming in for me to support myself fully. So when I first moved to Utah, I started driving cat at Brighton. I drove cats for 3 years, and then just couldn't manage the amount of time spent on the mountain. Driving from midnight till 9 in the morning, and then riding and trying to get back down to the valley so that I could get enough rest to be back up there at midnight. Just eventually wore on me.
Okay.
So I moved on to managing the Alpine Rose, which is the main cafeteria at Brighton, and managed the busing staff and did some maintenance and took care of the building, cleaned, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And so as you were doing that, you had other hobbies like skateboarding, and you were skateboarding quite a bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, I still thought that maybe making a run at snowboarding as a career was it for me. So mountain biking kind of fell into the background, and so did skating. I would still skate during the summer, skate with my friends. There wasn't a lot of parks at that time. We had a really nice indoor park called Real Ride during that time. I think we went there together quite a bit. So yeah, I had a real good time skating, and I wasn't doing a lot of mountain biking at the time, but I had already had a pretty good biking background, so
You would do that too.
yeah.
And so then there's a moment that like probably changes your whole entire life.
Absolutely.
And so I know it's like a big moment, so I kind of want you to describe how that happened.
Okay, so a few more years went by. I was managing a shop that was a ski rental, snowboard shop, snow clothing, skateboard, mountain bike, pretty much the whole action sports gamut. Had a really cool basement skate park, and I was managing there, and still riding, and skating was increasing. I think just like any person who does a lot of board sports, it's really in the end about skating and surfing. To me, they're the most core of that group. So yeah, I was doing more and more skating, especially vert, and was at a backyard ramp in Sandy, and absolutely exploded my leg.
What size of a ramp was this?
I believe it was somewhere between 10 and 12, probably a 12 footer, but quick transition and probably a foot and a half of vert. So it was a smaller vert ramp, but a little bit tricky.
Okay. And so you're just enjoying that day.
Yep, having a good time, learning a new trick. I was doing when I hurt myself, I was doing a pretty high speed alley oop to feeble grind, switch feeble. I'm sorry. So I would alley oop and then lock in and do switch feeble, and I tried to run it out, and that was a grave mistake, and broke both bones in my lower leg, one straight across and one from top to bottom spirally, and then pretty much destroyed my entire foot. So every bone in my foot and just shattered that thing. My Achilles, the back, my heel broke off and rolled around and hit that. I believe it's called a metatarsal, which is the round bone on the side of your ankle on the outside, and they both crushed up in the powder, and there I was. And my kid came, and I leaned on his shoulder, and he walked me to the car.
Okay, so, because I was little, so I like remember the vert ramp. Like I remember that vert ramp, and I remember you walking to the car. And for me, I didn't think you were that hurt.
Yeah, neither did I.
Like I knew you were limping, but I didn't think you were that hurt. So then, what happens for you over the next week?
So that night I went home and iced because I'd rolled my ankle and hurt myself many times. So I went home and iced my ankle and went to bed and woke up about 3 or 3:30 in the morning, and my ankle was gone pretty much. From my toes to my knees was the size of a football, all the way from the top of my knee to the tips of my toes. You could barely see my toes.
Okay. And then, so after that, what do you do?
Well, then I went to the hospital. When it had an X-ray, and the doctor came out, and I immediately, I was scared. I was scared to death because it was my identity, and I was hoping it was going to be my body was going to be used to make money. So I was scared to death, and I said, "Doctor, is it broken?" And he literally laughed at me, and he said, "Yeah, yeah, it's broken, all right. Yeah, it's broken pretty bad." And over the next 20 minutes, explained to me that his recommendation was to amputate my leg, probably about halfway down my calf. And I came unglued, told him to eat a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I told him he could leave. And then I believe your grandfather made a call to a very famous orthopedic surgeon here in Salt Lake. And he was in Moab at the time with his wife. And he agreed to come back and try to save it. And he jumped on his motorcycle with his wife and got cut off on Highway 6 between Moab and Green River and ran into a telephone pole, lost his wife, and almost lost his own life. So it was back to the drawing board, and I ended up going through a couple more doctors that all didn't think they could save my leg. And so I called the original doctor back in and apologized, and told me he had to try to save my leg, and he told me that I might wake up without it. So, pretty heavy deal. This was probably a 18-hour ordeal while I'm laying in the hallway of a hospital. I didn't even have a room. So,
Okay. And so when you go under, you're telling him to fix it, and he's agreed to do it.
these are good to try.
And then, but he's like, if this isn't going to work out, I'm going to chop this thing off.
Yeah.
And so you know that when you wake up, when you go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And when you wake up, you see your foot's there. And are you overjoyed, or are you indifferent, or are you pissed off?
High.
Super high.
High.
And so that's like probably a 2-day experience.
Yeah.
And then,
I was happy to see my leg.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I knew regardless that my road was probably going to be even more difficult than if they would have amputated it.
Okay. And did you have to do like physical therapy and rehab for your leg?
Yeah, but it didn't go well.
No.
I didn't take it seriously. My leg hurt. I was expecting when they took the cast off, which was months later, I was expecting to see a thin leg, right? Because that's what I'd always seen when a cast would come off. An arm or a leg would get thin, right? But when he took my cast off and he broke that thing in half and opened it, my whole ankle and down to my toes was still green. And this was, I don't know, 3 months later.
Okay.
Still green and black, and still as, I don't know, my ankle was as big as my calf.
Just mangled still.
Still mangled.
Because they did a gnarly surgery on your ankle.
Yeah.
Like they probably cut your whole foot all the way open, right? Like took it apart and then wired it back together from what you've described to me.
Bolts and pins.
Okay.
We can look at I have x-rays post-op and pre-op.
So we might post those for you guys in here.
Yeah.
Just so you can kind of see what really happened.
Yeah.
On a quick side note of that, if any of you are watching this and you're a really, really good orthopedic surgeon or you do stem cell, I think he's contemplating trying to do some more work on his ankle.
Absolutely. I want to rescope it and see if I can get some movement in my ankle.
Yeah.
It's a daily, I'd say what most people would call a 7 in pain. I'm in that probably 6 hours a day.
Yeah, and so that's all happening for you. And I'm like 4. I'm 3 or 4.
Yeah, you're probably 4 at the time.
And so are you and my mom are still together or no?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that was a key moment. I was doing a lot. So everybody knows a little bit of backstory. Ethan is not my birth child, but I have raised him all the way since a couple months old. I've been there the whole time and dated his mother until he was in a little bit over 5, I think, right? But this injury was the moment where I became someone that needed to be taken care of a little bit instead of being somebody who took care of most everything. Financially, I wasn't a big bread earner, but taking care of the house, taking care of my best friend, my child, trying to take care of Ethan's mother the best I could and myself. So I was doing a lot, but that was the first moment really in my entire life that I had gone from being a caretaker, someone who enjoyed taking care of people and things, to I needed to be taken care of.
You had to be.
I had to be.
It's not that you wanted to be.
Yeah. And so that was a key moment because that didn't really work for my mate. It worked for my son. He spent a lot of time with me, taking care of me, because I couldn't move.
Okay.
So you took real good care of me, you know. And I'm not trying to come down on my ex. She was just doing her best, right?
Well, and in reality, that's, especially with, you're still an extremely capable person, even with your ankle right now. But I would say, like, you're more capable, even with your ankle, to do a lot of things than a lot of people. And so for someone like that to need that much help would put a strain on any relationship, right?
Absolutely.
Because it went from, like, there's a few people, so like what I've learned about you that you've passed down to me is there's very few people who are born with the ability and athletic aptitude and intelligence you might not be a genius, but it's a perfect package to make a true man or a true athlete or someone who's gifted, right? And so when you go from being gifted to being normal or subpar, it's got to be devastating not only for you, but for the person who's used to seeing you that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was in many ways soul crushing. It crushed my identity. I got so much joy from the athletic things I did, and also the manual, the building, the construction, the skill set that my father taught me. I'm very blessed to have had a great grandfather and a great father that both had amazing skill sets and taught me to do so many things. And so, yeah, it was pretty debilitating. I felt like I lost my whole self. But the truth is, like, a lot of good came from it. Right. I was humbled. I learned to use my heart more than my hands. So I learned to love better. I became a better father. I, I'm single right now, but I think there were times where I became a much better mate. I became a better man. So, yeah, lots of good things came from it.
Okay. And so obviously during that time you can't really work.
Yeah, I did work.
Okay.
Yeah, I was on the couch for, I think, a couple months, and then I went back to the boarding house and crutched around and gripped skateboards and tuned snowboards and fixed the ramps downstairs when I could, and everything that goes into running a shop like that.
And okay. And then so after that you're on your journey of getting your foot from green to black back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
So how long did that take?
I don't know. I can't remember that. I don't. As far as changing color, it's really never gotten much better as far as flexibility and strength. I've just learned how to do everything I could do before on one foot, basically.
Okay. And so now what sports do you do?
I like bikes.
So
I do like bikes, everybody. Bikes are the only thing that makes me feel like I can almost do it close to 100%. When I'm skateboarding, I have to stand on my toes and my heels up off the board, so I have a big lack of control. And if I fall, it's got to be to the knee pads. There's no way I can run out at speed. I have to tumble. Surfing, same thing. Wake surfing, same thing. It's difficult. Snowboarding's painful. I can do it. I can ride in powder, but not once the powder gets choppy. It has to be fresh.
the nice.
Yeah.
The special sauce of the powder is different. Okay. So then you're at the board shop. That eventually shuts down, right?
No. That's a wild story.
Okay.
Right. I was managing with a good friend of mine, and he got accused of extortion from the board shop. All right, and he got let go, and I went from co-managing with him to being the lead man, right, to running the shop. And then, funny enough, a couple months later, I got accused of extortion, and I got fired from it. Never knew what happened. It was a strange meeting that I had with them. But I packed up my stuff and walked out of there not knowing what was gone. And we were confused because there's one thing I am, it's loyal.
Yeah.
So I was confused. I did a great job for them. I loved that shop. I treated it as if the things that were in there were mine. And it wasn't until about 2 or 3 years ago I got a call from the guy that was co-managing. I'm gonna leave his name out because I don't have his permission to use his name. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
And same thing with the people that own the shop. But
Yeah.
I got a call from him, and they said that he ran into the shop owner and found out the true story, which was that his wife had become hooked on hard drugs, and she was extorting from the company. And in order to cover that, she accused both of us. And funny part is he is a detective.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's kind of there's a little bit
there's
of
a little
irony.
bit of irony on that one.
Right? Like, yeah. So it was a bummer because it was a great shop, and I feel that it would still be there if I continued to run it. It would still be there.
If not both of you, at least one of you running
at
it
least
probably
one of
would have
us.
kept it there.
Yeah.
Okay. And so after that, you do a lot of odd end jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to that, one of the coolest things about running that shop was I had already had a good basis of most of the people that, when I moved to Utah, there was probably only literally about 100 or 200 people that snowboarded when I moved here. And half of them were in Little Cottonwood and half of them were big Cottonwood. And there was a few in Park City, but we all knew each other, right? We didn't all get along, but most of us did. And so I'd already had a great basis for the community. And then when I started managing the shop, I started doing the buying, and so I got to meet all the reps and made some great friendships that I still maintain, and absolutely some lifelong friends and a great network. So I'm really grateful for that. And then, when that was over, I moved to Volet. I did some odd jobs, and then I ended up at Volet. They're the company that invented the split board and pioneered it. And I built their skis and snowboards for a handful of years.
Okay. And shout out to all those reps that have hooked us up throughout the years. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
So you get to Volet. You're with Lee.
Yeah, Lee, a.k.a. Little Nettie.
Lee!
The broken soldier.
The broken soldier. And you guys are doing boards, and you're there for a few years, and then it's your time to move on.
Mm-hmm.
And so you progress. You're transitioning your life away from being an action sports athlete into people's real world, right? The life of adventure, but you're still going on adventures on your weekends, right?
Yeah.
And you're slowly learning how to reuse your leg. And you've picked up all these experiences. And then after Volet, where do you go?
After Volet, I took quite a long hiatus. Certain people in my life were not performing to the standards that needed to be performed to. And you were, I don't know what, 10, 11, 12. I'd coming into that junior high school, early high school age, and pretty pissed off, right? Pretty scared, and trying to take care of people in your life, and trying to take care of me because I was still pretty broken, right? And it was unfair to you, but I took a hiatus. I made money here and there how I could, and just tried to be with you as much as possible, keep you engaged, right? If I could keep your feet on a board or your ass on a bicycle seat, or something to that effect, I knew I had a better chance of keeping my kid alive through his teens.
Definitely. especially because I had a lot of energy and a lot of mind power to put towards anything bad that I wanted to do. And I feel like that helped me become the way I am, is the time you took doing that. Because, like, I was really lucky to have you to take me to go skateboarding, to go mountain biking, to go snowboarding, to go to football practice.
Go Bengals.
Go Bengals. Shout out Brighton. And so during that time, I'm constantly getting in trouble in school, but not for grades. That's a weird, is that weird to deal with?
No, no shout out to the school system. Shout out to teachers, but this curriculum that they try to teach these kids is pitiful, to say the least. Right? The smarter you are, the more challenging it is, because it's just expansion and review constantly.
Yeah.
It's boring, and you get bored, and what are you gonna do?
Talk shit.
Go talk shit. Leave school. How many times can you discuss American history? It's 3/4 lies, and the rest of it's slightly tainted.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard for kids.
And then so, like, being a parent watching me constantly battle the school system, then you started doing, I lived at your house for 3 years, 2.5,
Well, you lived at my house on and off
the whole time.
the whole time.
But I mean, like, I got dropped off at your house one day.
Yeah. Well, you called me. I don't know if you remember, but you called me and asked to come to my house.
Yeah. Because I was like, this shit is
brutal.
wild over here, bro. I gotta go. I'm making myself dino nuggets.
So definitely, I would say the beginning of 7th grade through 9th grade, maybe early 10th, which is about the time that you stop going to school, right? For a minute, or at least stop going to Brighton.
Yeah. So I made it all the way through 10th at Brighton, but I, like, just couldn't agree with anything they were teaching.
Yeah.
Because it was the same thing as it when I was in 7th grade.
Yeah. Well, I mean, football got you through 9th grade.
Yeah, and 10th.
And 10th.
Until I got that concussion.
You got a concussion, and then your interest, and you couldn't play football, and so your interest in being in school for any reason was over.
Shut off.
Yeah.
I gotta go. And so during that time, you're doing this thing called, like, dynamic soaring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And randomly you start buying all these little RC parts. And I'm like, what are we doing over here? And then you explained to me that these things go like a few 100 miles an hour. And so you end up meeting this huge group of people that fly from all over the world to fly these remote control. Basically, it's the same thing as a drone. It just doesn't have an engine. And there's no camera on it most of the time.
Well, it's a glider.
Yeah.
So it's a glider, so the control motors are in the wings, and they control the flight surfaces, and they technically fly like a hang glider does on the front side of the mountain. But in high speeds in the right location, you take them onto the back side of the mountain where there is no wind, and there's that way there's no resistance. As they come up over the top of the hill, they go through the layer, and they hit the strong wind, and that accelerates them, and they start to wind up, and you fly them in circles, and they go faster and faster. It's how albatross get across the ocean.
Okay. And so you dive into that for a long time, and you meet a ton of cool people.
Yeah.
Like a ton of cool people that aren't in, like, the normal action sports world you're used to. There's different type of businessmen. There's scholars that come here from Europe. and there's these forums online that are like shitty little blog sites, but all of you guys are communicating on them to understand the science of this thing. And so I feel like at that moment, your life kind of turned to a different place again, right?
Yeah, well, my closest friends were all in the mountain, right? And I wasn't, and so I lost my my brotherhood. You know, I didn't lose it. They're still there for me, and as a matter of fact, I talk to them every day. They're still really close, but I didn't have that connection where I had an action to go with the friendship, right? Something to focus on and something to improve on. I love that. I'm in the middle of it right now. I love to pick a new thing and learn how to do it and improve and get better and better at it, and then eventually, hopefully, master it. So yeah, that was a great experience. Something completely out of my realm.
And so at that time, you end up eventually doing landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
And you worked fucking hard.
That's in some of the best shape of my life. Yeah. Landscaping's hard. If you guys don't know, the mow and blow where you go from property to property. I was working for my friend Colby Dykesman. He is one of the best men I know. And I worked for him for several years, and he always pushed me. He always made me do pretty much what everybody else was doing. He demanded that I was on time and, in good shape and a good leader and all those things, right? All the things it takes to be a good man. So much love to Colby Dykesman and his family. I love them very much. But yeah, I was in some of the best. I was the strongest I'd ever been for sure. And I would walk probably, I'm going to guess, over 20 miles a day.
Okay.
With a fused ankle.
With a fused ankle. Rebuilding that connection even more.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
And then I'm just out here fucking up during this time. Because I've lost my shit.
Yeah.
Right? Because, when I'm not at your house, I'm just in the most broken household you could ever fucking imagine.
Yeah.
Right? And so you end up basically fucking homeless.
Yeah.
And I'm driving to California with a bong in my cup holder and just acting fucking foolish. So then I get in trouble, and Dan allows you to stay with him.
Yeah, Dan allowed me to stay with him. And Megan also allowed it. That was a big moment for me. I needed several people told me it was okay. But it felt safest at Dan's. I felt like the least amount of burden at Dan's. And definitely made wherever I go, I try to make my presence felt. So I tried to do whatever I could over there. But at the time, I was landscaping. So I would come home absolutely wrecked every day.
Yeah. And then you bail me out of jail.
Yeah.
And drag me into Dan and Megan's house. Thank you, Dan and Megan.
Yeah, against popular opinion, I was basically told no.
Yeah.
And I just said, yeah. No, the answer is yes.
Well, and thank you anyway, because you still let me do it for a little while.
Yeah.
Until we were able to get a place, and you were able to basically get both of us on our feet.
Yeah.
And then you tell me I have to make a choice. I can keep fucking up, or I can go learn a skill. And you basically tell me to shut the fuck up and walk to Joseph's barbershop every day. And you drop me off most of the time.
Well, isn't there someone that picked you up on a consistent basis and you guys would go get coffee?
Yeah, Clay.
Clay. Rest in peace, Clay. I owe a debt to Clay. Yeah, he was a good man. And his father,
Andy.
Andy, I just saw him recently at Home Depot. You raised a good young man, and we miss him.
Yeah. And then, so you watched me take my jump into that career, and you get offered a job from another one of your friends, but it's not a job with him.
Yeah, well, he was a co-owner in two different businesses, and it was in the trucking business. And one of my flying friends, and just one of my good friends. Yeah, I took a job there. It was a good job. I'm grateful for it. I was moving up pretty quickly and doing what I thought was a pretty damn good job for them, and then I decided to derail all of that, become a barber, so I could be closer to my son.
Yeah. And it throws me back to when I was an apprentice, and you looked at me and you said, if you become actually successful in this, I'll be your apprentice. And then...
Stupid.
And then, so you're working at that trucking business, and shout out to Spencer. Thank you, Spencer, for always looking out for our family and being an honest and true friend, because my dad has a lot of friends and they're all great people, and I don't know how he finds all these people, but you and Jen are super special to my dad and to me, and everybody we've talked about, and even the people we haven't talked about, we appreciate you all, because our journey's been really fucking wild. But yeah, so you're like, fuck it, I have this dope corporate job, but we're gonna go build a barbershop empire, and I'm gonna learn how to cut hair. And I told you it would take 5 years for us to build the empire properly. And I think we're on year 3.5 or 4.
Yeah, we're in our 4th year
Since you started.
We're probably close to our start. We're in the early stages of our 5th year.
Since you started. Because you started in 2020
I don't know.
or 2019.
I don't know. I don't do that.
You don't care.
I don't care what year it was. I don't keep track of that kind of stuff.
And so when you were like, okay, I'm going to learn to cut hair, did you think it'd be that hard?
I didn't think that the actual cutting of the hair would be as hard as it was. I knew it was going to test my friendship and my relationship with my son in a big way, right? So that was probably the hardest part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the most beautiful part.
Yeah. And so you go through an 8-month apprenticeship. You're working a job and cutting hair full time. And then...
For part of it.
Yeah. And then COVID hits. And you go back to that other job while the shop shut down for 6 weeks in the middle of your apprenticeship.
Kind of. I went to Spencer's other company.
Okay.
So I went to the dealership.
Okay. And then you come back, and then we dial in for the rest of the year, and we save the company.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did the same thing that I always do when when things get difficult. I did house calls when no one else would do them. Shout out to COVID. I'm not scared of you.
That was cool.
Yeah, I wasn't afraid, and I'm not afraid now. So COVID was good to me. The COVID era, so to speak, was good to me. I made a lot of money, and all the fortitude and
Perseverance.
that I've learned over the years that I had to have as a Gen X, right? And so, again, I shout out a lot of people, but shout out to Gen X. You can't touch us. We're just different, and all the tools that I have I used in that period. The ability to just push through something that was looked at as a global disaster, and turn it into a come up.
Yeah.
So I made a lot of money. I made a lot of friends, and broke down a lot of walls during that time. And so did you.
Yeah, we had to fucking dig it out of the mud for sure. And so during that time, we have to go through a huge period of changing the way our business operates and the way we're doing things. Otherwise, we're going to perish.
Yeah.
And Marcus goes and opens the second location, and we wait a year and we plan. And you move up to Ogden, and you get to know the areas around there. And I'm still skeptical of going too far north. So me and you agree upon Bountiful.
Yeah. Which is where the ski shop was. And so I already familiar with that community. It's a great community. A little bit straighter community that I'm used to, a little bit more conservative, but good people all the same.
Mm-hmm. And we're trying to open, and I had you basically general contract the job with a general contractor and manage the job site. And then for the first year, we just bickered and learned how to open a location where neither of us are from and how it has to be operated.
That was a long road.
And it was impossible to hire barbers. They didn't want to work there, which was weird.
Well, no, not really. Not when you think about it. It's a affluent community. It's far from any urban community and a long ways from any barber school. So most of the barbers that are going to these barber schools are from West Valley, Taylorsville, Magna, Ogden, Roy, places like that. And we are a pretty decent drive from all those places.
Any of it,
right? So barbers just didn't want to commute, right? They want to live close to home, and they don't want to move. I don't know if you agree, Ethan, but I think that the less money your family has, the more the family wants to stick close to each other for emergencies and for that love that comes from the family, because they don't have a lot of opportunity, or I should say they have to fight harder for their opportunity, right? So so they like to have that support of family.
Which is noble and good, but it is hard when they'll step over $500 over a 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
So, which is weird, because I feel like in Utah, the mountains make invisible borders. So, like, the drive to Park City from here is not that far.
No.
But because there's a mountain in the way, you're like, fuck, that's a long way.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And because Utah is only becoming a big city now, and it's not huge yet, but it's a big city now.
Yeah.
I think that there's still that small town mentality of like, I don't want to drive 30 minutes to Costco, right?
Yeah.
Same thing for work, because we're so blessed with that commodity of time right now. And so we're building that shop, and it's not going well for the first 6 months, right? Like, it's going great.
Slow.
No.
It was a slow growth, but I mean, all the strongest things grow slow.
Right. And now, how many barbers do you have in Bountiful?
Including myself, I have 9 and a 10 chair shop. So I've got a chair left. I've got 1 part-time barber. So that chair could be filled eventually. And then I've got my chair.
And then over the course of the 3 years that shop's running, but we start moving you into a different position in the company, which is helping manage the Mill Creek location because it's falling to shambles. And you perform really well at managing those tasks, even though sometimes we bump heads.
Mm-hmm. Of course we do.
And so you start cutting a little bit less hair. Not a lot. You go to 4 days a week, but you're working 7. We work 7 still. It's just different types of work. And then Mark comes to us and says, we got to do the 4th one.
Yeah, opportunity's just too good to pass up.
So then we change your job again. And you don't get paid more this time. And you're doing probably 40% more work.
Yeah, but I am getting better at the other work, and I have some great managers in the Bountiful. I mean, they're good kids, and I'm a good mentor, and so I think over time I really turned them into I think I've pulled out what was already inside those boys.
Yeah, they were good kids to begin with, but you helped teach them, and they're still learning every day.
Yeah.
But so now you're in charge of 4 locations.
Yeah, 3, and then I do some work for Mark at the Magna location. What he needs me to do. Right.
Well, you're not at all 4 locations on hand every day, but you're above every manager in the company.
My ghost is in each shop each day. My spirit's in there, and they know that they can reach out to me, and when there's a problem or something breaks, I make sure it gets taken care of very quickly.
And then on top of that, we're teaching you how to teach managers their responsibilities, how to market, how to do events, how to approach these situations, and how to be a good manager. And so you're the mentor for, at the moment, 6 managers, because we still have 2 manager slots available.
Mm-hmm.
And you cut your days from cutting hair from 5 to 3.
To 2.
To 2.
And back to 3.
But in times of need, it's back to 3.
Yeah.
So what skill set is, like, what's the difference between the skill set of being a barber and what you're doing now?
Well, the skill set is similar to me. What it does require is more patience, right? I have to, let's just go back to that whole Gen X thing. No, we don't operate on patience or sugar. We were raised on hose water and neglect, and kicking down walls, kicking down doors. No sugar needed, right? So I've learned to do that. I'm trying to learn to let what's in my heart show on my face. If that makes sense to anybody. 'Cause I always love, but I've got that fatherly love to the 10th power, right? Like, I don't say, okay, get up, sweetheart. I say, get on your feet. We have places to go. So I'm trying to learn to have a more gentle approach. Right? I think that's been the biggest transformation for me. And it's not that like I said, it's not that I don't have that in my heart. I've always had that in my heart. But in the time and the place I grew up, you were not allowed to show that.
Yeah.
And so I became very calloused, and any time of pressure, there's no way I'm going to show what could be taken as weakness, even though truly love and patience and are virtues, right? But it took me more than half of my life to figure that out completely.
Okay. And now you're not behind the chair as often, but you're working just as much. But is the new work easier on your body as long as we're not doing construction? Or is it about the same?
It's about the same. Maybe a little bit easier on my body. Honestly, barbering, my mentors, I had some pretty incredible barbers around me when I learned to cut hair, and they taught me how to hold my body, how to use my wrists less and use my elbows more, how to keep my posture correctly, everything, right? How to take care of my tools, how to not waste money on tools. They taught me everything there was to know about it.
So you almost feel like the cutting hair doesn't take quite as much as a toll.
No, as a matter, I do jab at some of my barbers for that, right? Because they're like, oh, my feet hurt, and don't say that to me.
After hearing about your ankle, yeah, maybe some of you guys should watch this podcast.
Yeah, your feet don't hurt. Right.
My one foot hurts more than after your whole life.
Yeah, sometimes I cut hair on one foot if it's a bad day. So, yeah, your feet don't hurt, guys. That's not real.
Yeah, and probably do something active outside of work to help build that muscle back up.
Ask one of my barbers. I have a barber named Fern. He's pretty private, so I'm not going to say his last name, but he did construction, drywall, through his youth and into his teens, and before he became a barber, and he never complains about his feet, right?
No. And he cuts a lot of hair.
Cuts a lot of hair. So.
And so now in this new journey, what would you like to have happen through the barbershops and through the grooming line and through the podcast and all of that? Where do you want to be in 5 years?
The first thing that I want is the thing I want most is for the product line to succeed. I work really hard on that. It's the hardest thing to do with the barbers is to get them to consistently sell product. the product line, I think, is a big it is a big aspect to our end goal, right? For me, it seems that way.
Yeah.
So in 5 years, I'd like to see us with a small warehouse full of product and seeing it on Amazon, seeing it in grocery stores, and any place where the experts cut hair.
Okay. Speaking on that, I think part of our biggest problem is we don't have enough sales reps.
Yeah.
Meaning, so we're running 40 chairs. Not all of them are full at the moment, but we're running 40 chairs. So we have a lot to bite off.
Mm-hmm.
And we need some people around the country who want to make money to help us push this to the communities and the barbershops and the salons around the country for that to be a thing.
Yeah. We have great product line.
We have a great
really
product line, but we just don't have the resources or the network at the moment. Because I could cut off one of your days of cutting hair and you can go to every place in Utah, and honestly, it'd probably be pretty profitable. But at the same time, like, you're not social media inclined.
Yeah.
Because you're not technologically not inclined. You can use a phone, you know how to use a computer, you know how to use the internet, but you just grew up not inside social media, so it's really hard for you to designate your time to it.
Well, it's hard for me to designate my time properly to it.
Yeah, because you get caught in the dopamine.
Yeah, it gets me on the dopamine. It pulls me in. It gets me interested in things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Right?
So for you can't promote it on social media.
I end up getting caught in the cyclone.
And for me, the only thing I can do is set up a content plan and post for it because I'm running 7 accounts.
Yeah, but again, we already talked about this. The strongest things in the world are slow growth.
Yeah. And so, but I do think if we start making a call to action like I just did, like if you are trying to make money and you think you can sell grooming products to barbershops or salons, please reach out to myself or Bobby and we can hop on a phone call and we'll figure out a proper way to compensate you for what you're doing. And we can try to make Bobby's dream of making the product line have a little warehouse come true a little bit faster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we have to be realistic. I think that most people in this time, right, they want to be rewarded before they have accomplished anything, right? And so if that's you, don't contact us, right? Because if you make money, then you get money, right? This is just one of the oldest things in time. Like if you don't make money for a corporation, then you're not going to have a job.
Yeah.
And so we need driven people to help us do that, and we need the right people, or we need to wait until we have the right people, I think.
I completely agree.
You know, the other aspect of it that I would like to see happen in the next 5 years is to get to maybe 6, 7, 8 shops, get them all successful and all in the green, making good money, and stop cutting hair except for the few people that are very close to me and refuse to get their hair cut by anyone else, and then eventually ride off into the European sunset.
To Estonia.
Yeah, maybe Estonia. Yeah. Don't consider Estonia, everybody.
Yeah.
The reason you've never heard of it is because it sucks there. So keep yourself out of there. Don't go there on vacation. Don't move there.
Don't Don't make the prices jack up like Utah
Yes,
boys.
Yes, stay at least 4 borders away from Estonia.
Well, honestly, anywhere we can get
Yeah.
some cool land,
Yeah.
and start doing business.
Yeah. Do good game, good fishing,
Anywhere in the
clean
world.
food, those kind of things. Right?
What I want is we can go mountain biking in the summer in dope places, and then in the winter we can fly wherever we want to go snow biking, because I am no longer a snowboarder. Sorry to say it. Got my first powder shots today. Will not be going back, my friends. And I think that's where I'm at with that, right? Like,
It's a fun hobby. If any of you get a chance to try it, it's not easy, but nothing that's good is easy.
nothing. I'm glad I got to document your like actual story. And there's a lot more we could go into.
Yeah, there's a lot more. We maybe we'll have another episode a year or two down the line.
Yeah, and we'll let everybody leave comments about what they want to hear more of, and we'll get through that. But in the meantime, if you're looking for a job as a barber, or you want to see cool adventures, make sure you follow Bobby Thousands on Instagram and Facebook.
Bobby B Thousands.
Bobby B Thousands. And I'm really glad that you're my first podcast I'm going to air, because you've done a lot for me, and I know we do a lot for each other, but I love and respect you, Dad.
I love you too. I'm glad you're my son and my best friend and my partner. Right? It doesn't get much better. If there's anything that I'm most grateful for is my I'm so rich with friends, right? And you're my best friend, but I'm so rich with friends all the way from, I have friends that I went to elementary school with, and I have good friends that I've met in the last 2 years. So I keep growing those friendships. Most people are lucky to have 2 or 3 people that they can trust in their entire life. And man, I'm rich beyond words. I got all kinds of friends. Oh my God, I got my boy Dan. He's an amazing man. He's maybe one of the most kind and compassionate people that I know, right? And then I got the snowman, and all these people are friends with Ethan too, because Ethan would not let me go anywhere, ever. Everywhere I went, Ethan was right there. And so these are all his friends too. And Mike Snow, you know, the thing about Mike Snow is he always does the right thing. I can't think of a mistake. And if he does make a mistake, but he cleans it up quick and he's accountable for it. But he always seems to do the right thing, you know. And so I'm lucky to have him. I've got friends in California, Westy. Shout out to Westy.
Westy.
We love that dude a lot. Mitch and Donnie, and all the people I've met through barbering and snowboarding. Scotty McLaren, 3 Bald Guys Wax. Pick some of that up if you snowboard or ski bike, if you're cool enough for that.
Bro!
Yeah, I've got a lot of really, really good friends. I'm lucky.